Someone you love is going to die. And when they do, you will do something strange. You will gather people together. You will put the body somewhere specific. You will say certain words, follow certain rituals, and feel a pull toward behaviors that seem to come from somewhere deeper than thought. You won't decide to do these things. You'll just do them. And the real answer for why is far stranger than you think. Death is the one experience every human who has ever lived has shared. Not the experience of dying, but the experience of watching someone else die, of standing over a body and not knowing what to do with the fact that a person was here and now is not. That problem, the social, emotional, logistical catastrophe of death, is one your ancestors were solving long before language existed, long before religion existed, long before civilization existed, and the solutions they found are still running inside you right now. The oldest confirmed burial site in the world is not in Egypt. It is not in Greece. It is not anywhere near what we call the ancient world. It is in South Africa, in a cave system called Rising Star, and it dates back at least 300,000 years. The creature buried there was not even fully modern human. It was Homo naledi, a species with a brain roughly 1/3 the size of yours, small enough that scientists long assumed it lacked the cognitive capacity for symbolic thought. And yet, deep inside that cave, bodies had been deliberately placed, not dropped, not abandoned, placed, arranged, returned to again and again. Paleoanthropologist Lee Berger and his team spent years excavating those caves, and what they found forced a complete rethinking of when ritual behavior began. The assumption had always been that burial was a late invention, something that emerged with the cognitive revolution around 50,000 years ago, when humans suddenly started making art and jewelry and complex tools. But Rising Star suggested something far older, something more unsettling. It suggested that the impulse to do something with the dead is not a product of advanced culture. It may be a precondition for it. Think about what burial actually requires. You have to recognize a body as something different from an object. You have to feel that its placement matters. You have to be willing to spend energy, real, metabolically costly energy, on a task that produces no immediate survival benefit. No calories, no shelter, no protection from predators. In evolutionary terms, burial is irrational. And yet here it is, 300,000 years ago, in a species we used to dismiss as primitive. Evolution doesn't preserve irrational behavior unless it's doing something useful. The question is what? Anthropologist Ernest Becker spent his career trying to answer that. His 1974 Pulitzer Prize-winning book argued that nearly all of human culture, art, religion, politics, the drive for legacy, is at its root a response to the awareness of death. He called it terror management. The knowledge that you will die, Becker argued, is so destabilizing that the human psyche cannot function unless it finds ways to symbolically transcend mortality. Burial, in this framework, is not just about respect for the dead. It is about the psychological survival of the living. When you put a body in the ground, you are doing something to your own mind. You are creating a container for an unbearable truth. But there is another layer, and it gets stranger. Across cultures, across centuries, across every human society ever documented, burial is almost never just burial. It is almost always accompanied by something else. Food placed with the body, objects that belong to the person, specific positions, fetal, facing east, arms crossed over the chest, flowers, ochre, red pigment pressed into bone. At Shanidar Cave in what is now northern Iraq, a Neanderthal burial site dating back 60,000 years yielded pollen from at least 8 different plant species clustered around the body. Archaeologist Ralph Selecki, who excavated the site in the 1950s, interpreted this as evidence of flowers deliberately placed on the grave. The idea was electrifying. Neanderthals, not quite human, burying their dead with flowers. It was proof, Selecki argued, that something like tenderness, something like grief, was older than our species. Later analyses complicated that picture. Some researchers suggested the pollen arrived through natural means, rodent burrows, wind, contamination. The debate continues. But what nobody disputes is this. The body was deliberately placed. The Neanderthal was not left where it fell. Someone carried it. Someone chose a location. Someone, 60,000 years ago, did something intentional with a corpse. And that intention is the thing that keeps reappearing across every branch of the human family tree, on every continent, in every era. Your ancestors on the African savanna did not have the same beliefs as your ancestors in ancient Mesopotamia. Your ancestors in the Amazon did not share the same rituals as your ancestors in feudal Japan. But all of them, every single human population ever studied by ethnographers and archaeologists, developed some formal response to death. That universality is not an accident, it is a signal. Psychologist Jaak Panksepp, who spent decades mapping the emotional systems of the mammalian brain, identified what he called the panic system, a neural circuit dedicated to separation distress. It fires when a social animal is separated from its attachment figures. In infant mammals, it produces crying. In adult mammals, it produces searching behavior, vocalization, and a specific kind of distress that looks remarkably like what humans call grief. That system is ancient. It predates the neocortex. It predates language. It predates everything we associate with conscious emotional experience. It is wired into the deep structure of the social brain. And when a human being dies, everyone who was bonded to them feels that circuit fire. Grief, in other words, is not a cultural invention. It is a biological event. The rituals that surround death are, at least in part, a social technology built to manage that biological event. They give the panic system something to do. They provide structure when the nervous system is in chaos. They create shared behavior that binds a group together at the exact moment when loss threatens to pull it apart. Think about what happens in the days after a death in your world. People come to the house. They bring food. They sit together. They tell stories about the person who died. They laugh sometimes. They cry. They argue sometimes about what the person would have wanted. None of this is random. All of it serves a function. It interrupts isolation. It keeps the bereaved inside the social group. It converts a private neurological crisis into a communal event that the group can survive together. Your Paleolithic ancestors did the same thing. Different rituals. Same function. The ochre pressed into bone was not superstition. It was participation. It was the act of a community saying, "This person mattered," and our response to their absence will be visible and deliberate and shared. There is one more layer, the strangest one. Across an enormous number of cultures, not all, but enough to be striking, the dead are not treated as simply gone. They are treated as present in a different form, as ancestors who can be consulted, as spirits who must be appeased, as forces that continue to shape the living. The anthropologist Philippe Ariès, in his landmark historical study of death and dying in Western culture, traced the shift from what he called the tame death, a familiar, communal, domesticated event in which dying was public and the dead were kept symbolically close, to the modern death, which is medicalized, institutionalized, hidden, and treated as a failure. He argued that something essential was lost in that shift, that the modern discomfort with death, the sense that it is obscene and unmentionable, is historically unusual. For most of human history, the dead were not removed from the community. They were kept inside it. Your ancient ancestors did not fear the dead the way you might expect. They feared abandoning them. They feared losing the relationship. Burial was not removal. It was continuation. It was the living saying to the dead, "You still belong here." And this is the thing your nervous system still knows. When someone you love dies and you find yourself talking to them, in your head, at their grave, in the car alone, you are not behaving irrationally. You are running an ancient program. A program that existed before your species did. A program that kept groups intact across hundreds of thousands of years of loss and survival. The ritual, the gathering, the words, the grave. All of it is a technology built by evolution and culture together, refined across deep time, handed to you without instructions. Tonight, somewhere, a family will gather around a body. They will not know exactly why they are doing what they are doing. They will follow instincts older than language, in forms their particular culture gave those instincts. They will grieve together. They will eat together. They will tell stories, and the dead will, for a little while, still be in the room. Your ancestors have been doing this for 300,000 years, maybe longer. And when your turn comes to be the one who gathers or the one who is gathered for, you will do it too. Not because someone told you to, because it is the oldest thing humans know how to do.